chatted yesterday about how, like I started off, I think the second meditation saying, let's count, if we assume that I, using me as an example, have 50 years left, that's 26,280,000 heartbeats, assuming that my heart beats about 60 times a minute. But that's just a guess. We don't know how many more years I have, how many more years you have. We could go out and get hit by a beer truck this afternoon, right? Who's to say? So I invite you to have this be your meditation today. So coming to the mat, grabbing your blocks if you have any, setting them to the side so that you can easily grab them. I'll reorient the camera. Feeling yourself rooting your feet down into the mat. Landing here in this practice. Landing here in this moment. Feeling into the feet. Feeling here. Palms shine forward. And settle. Taking stock in your Tadasana, your mountain pose. Eyes are closed. Rooting down into all four corners of the feet. Palms shine forward. Tuck the tail just a little bit, soften the knees just a squidge. Breathing and landing. Scanning the body. How are you feeling? What's going on? What's your internal landscape look like? Taking your internal weather report. And then as you're ready, inhale those arms up and reach up. And as I've said to you all at the beginning of every class, exhale, hands down, midline. Giving yourself permission to migrate, to navigate through this class. Inhale, nice Surya Namaskar breath. Exhale down. Giving yourself permission to navigate through this class as it suits and serves you best. Okay, so that means that as we're going through these contemplations, open the heart, lifting up out of the waist. Palms shine towards each other, and then dive down. Come on down. Fold down. Arms hang heavy. Just stretching it out. Soften those knees. First Uttanasana. So, as we maybe brush up against some tender spots, let yourself breathe. Let yourself relax. And if necessary, maybe turning the volume down to give yourself some quiet and just watch me and follow along visually. And then maybe add back in or not. Maybe come into child's pose and turn the volume down. If you feel like, you have like maybe a wellspring of strong emotion that we tap into. Inhale, arch up halfway, flat back. So Joan Halifax writes, think of the many beings who died this day. Step that right leg back. How many of them really thought they were going to die today? There is an essential uncertainty about the time of your death. Pouring energy down that right leg, out the heel, shoulders roll down. Drop that knee down. Do you really think that you will know how much time you have left? This is our consideration. Your lifespan, like that of all living beings, is not fixed. Exhale it back. And as I started to say, we discussed this yesterday, and I asked the question, and some of you answered it. If you had the ability, inhale forward, if you had the ability to know when you're gonna die? Would you take it? I wouldn't. I think that would mess with your head, something fierce. Exhale back. Inhale forward. And exhale back. Thank you, Sally, for your donation. I appreciate you. Breathing here into your Ardha Hanumanasana. And then let's walk into our gate. So I'm going to be facing away from you. So you're just going to kind of pivot and walk your hands around. The long edge of the foot is aligned with the short edge of the mat, and lift up into your gate and arch over. Ooh, my obliques are sore. What did we do yesterday? Breathing here in your gate pose. And then exhale, go the other direction. Maybe the hand comes down onto a block, or maybe it comes down onto the earth as you go the other way. Breathing open. Flowing back and forth in your gait. So it's my left leg that's stretched towards the front of the mat. Going back and forth. Side bending. So good for the spine. Last one. Remember, you can put your hand on the block here or come all the way down. And then pivot back into your Ardha Hanumanasana, your low runner's lunge, half split. And then ground those hands, curl the toes under, and step it back, down dog. Walk your dog out, settling one heel down and then the other. Head hangs heavy. Tailbone rises up. And for those of you who might be newer to this class, part of the reason we're doing this work, a foundational reason we're doing this work, is when we consider death, when we contemplate death, we can transform our lives. So, gliding forward into plank pose, I really invite you to think about this in a way, think about these death contemplations in a way that are very life-affirming. Because, you might be like, ooh, Laura, this is kind of grim. It doesn't have to be grim, right? Knees come down, puppy dog stretch. Because our vulnerability as human beings is to mindlessly go through our lives. There's this beautiful quote from Benjamin Franklin, who says, some people die at 25 and they're not buried until 75. Walking your dog out. Okay? And we don't want that, right? We don't want to be treating our life as if it's a waiting room. We don't want to only take stock of our life at the end of our life. Stepping the right foot forward. Hands frame that foot. Shoulders down the back. Pouring energy down the left heel. Breathing here. And then drop that knee down. Low runner's lunge. Set those hips back. Toes stay down on this side. And inhale it forward. Okay. So I'm referring to a PDF which you can find in Circle if you're part of Yoga and Life Talk with Laura. I've included the link to this so you can print it out for yourselves. Joan Halifax goes on to right. Exhale it back, toes rise up, coming into your Ardha Hanumanasana, your half split. Inhale forward. She says death can come at any moment. You could die this afternoon. You could die tomorrow morning. You could die on your way to work. You could die in your sleep. Exhale it back. Most of us try to avoid the sense that death can come at any time. But the timing of death is unknown to all of us. Inhale forward. And then we're coming into our gait on this side. So now our right leg is towards the top of the mat, long edge of the foot parallel to short edge of the mat, and come on up into gait. Okay? And then we side bend to the right as our left arm reaches up. And then we go in the other direction. Putting your hand on that block if you need some height, maybe a block or two. So just float back and forth, feeling yourself here. You know, and as you breathe into this uncertainty, you know, what can you do to stabilize yourself, right? How can you ground down emotionally so that this uncertainty, you know, doesn't put you into a tailspin? Floating back and forth. And I think the work we've been doing here with yoga, you know, the greater, the big why rather than the little why yoga, which is so often practiced in the West, is just asana. It's just the physical postures on the mat. One more, back and forth. And these physical postures on the mat, while they're fabulous, and I certainly love them, they're just the littlest piece of the eightfold path of yoga. And then come on back into your Ardha Hanumanasana, half split, and back into your low lunge, and then curl those toes under and sit it back. So the work we've been doing here is about spiraling ever inward. You know, months ago we talked about the koshas, which are the 5 sheaths of the body. And you can think about them as onion skins. Tailbone rises up and the head hangs heavy. Roll the head on the neck. Tailbone lifts up. And then float that right leg back and up. If you like three-legged dog, spread the toes. Roll that foot around. Bring synovial fluid into the ankle. Crank the knee. Maybe make circles with that knee. Bringing synovial fluid into the hip. And then stretch it up and step it forward. Coming into your Vira 1. Hips are squared forward. Okay? A little bit of an angle to the back foot. Clasping the hands behind the back, open the heart. So these koshas, where we're spiraling inward, we've got our Annamaya kosha, this physical body. Step off onto the right foot. Arms go back like airplane wings, Vira 3. Okay, good focused gaze. Pranamaya kosha, that's our energetic body. Bend that knee, step it back. Manomaya kosha, that's the mind, the heart. Kind of like our emotional self. Breathing here in our Vira 1, open the heart. Vijnanamaya kosha, that's the wisdom body. Rooting that right leg down as you drop into your Ardha Chandrasana. Put your hand on a block, if that helps with your balance. Okay. Floating that left hip on top of the right. Left arm reaches up. Spread the fingers. Flex the foot. Breathing here. And then the innermost sheath is Ananda. Maya Kosha. Ananda, right? Ananda, the bliss body. Such Chit Ananda. Remember how we went through all of that? Straighten that leg. Long edges of the feet parallel to long edges of the mat. Feet are hip width apart. Soften that front knee. Hands on the hips. And glide forward. Nice long spine. Keeping a little bit of a bend in that knee. This is where it can be really nice to have your blocks in your pyramid pose. Okay? So that you can use your hands on your blocks. Keep gliding the right hip back, left hip forward. It can also feel good to put your hand on that hip and kind of like bring it together. Really make sure they're square. Right? Left hand comes down. Right hand, keep gliding that right hip back. And then float that arm up into your Pavrita Trikonasana. Twisting triangle. Breathing here. Another breath. Hand comes down. Walk those hands forward. Standing split. Jiva squat. Okay. So Sat Chit Ananda. Our connection to truth leads us to bliss. So if we're connected to our truth, if we're living fully, I think our death becomes a lot more graceful and easeful. Because I think we just feel more ready. Float it up. 0-1. We have fewer regrets. I think that's where people struggle the most at the end of life. Hands come down, down dog. And you might remember that yesterday's contemplation is death comes whether you're prepared for it or not. Right? So if you take stock of your life, if you look at the shape of your life, and you're like, wait. My priorities were off. Breathing here into your dog. Tailbone rises up and your head hangs heavy. And then widen those knees, touch the toes, sit it back. Coming down into your child's pose. Breathing into the shoulders. Maybe wiggle it out for a breath or two here in your child. If you can't get your forehead down onto the mat, it can be really nice to have your forehead onto a block. Okay? Because pressing the forehead in, there's something so grounding, so relaxing. There's a hormone called relaxin, and there's something about pressure on the third eye, agya, that's been shown, clinically shown to release this hormone. There's just something super easeful, relaxing about it. Another breath. And then come on up. Curl the toes, lift the hips. Okay. Our length of life is not fixed. You know, what do they say? That man plans and God laughs? You know, we can plan, but we still don't know. Putting that left leg back and up. Roll the foot on the ankle. Spread the toes. Maybe clench the toes, spread the toes, clench the toes. And then crank that knee open. Make circles with that knee, bringing mobility into the hip. So good for us to get synovial fluid, lymph moving through the body. Flip that leg up. Step that foot forward. An interesting physiological thing, just to take a quick tangent, float it up. You know, we've got our circulatory system, right? That has our heart pumping blood throughout our body, okay?
That's the way that our circulatory system works. But when it comes down to lymph, which is an incredibly important part of our immune system, there is nothing. So with Vera 1, I had to collect myself for a second. I was like, what are we doing? We're catching the hands behind the hips, open the heart. And then release your yoga mudra. Step off onto the left foot, coming into Vera with the arms back like airplane wings. Breathe in here. And then step it back. Virabhadrasana 1. Breathing. So with lymph, there's no corresponding organ that's supposed to move lymph through the body. The only way that lymph moves through the body is through the contraction of our muscles, which is why exercise is so incredibly important. So breathing here, straightening that leg, squaring the hips, and glide forward into our pyramid pose. Soften that knee, folding down. We're still going to do our standing split and jiva squats and everything. I think I might be doing this a little bit out of order. It's all good. We'll get it all in. Folding down here. Keep gliding that left hip back, right hip forward. Again, you can snuggle the left thumb right into the crease, right at the top of the thigh, and kind of glide that hip back. Soften that knee. Hands come down. Breathe in here. Right? And then the right hand comes down, possibly onto a block, and we come into our Pavrita Trikonasana on this side. Feeling that snuggle right at the top of the inner thighs, squeezing the inner thighs towards the midline. Another breath. And then hands come down, folding over that leg. And inhale, lift it up, Vera 1. Breathing. And then step off and come into our balancing half moon. If you're like me and your balance is kind of crazy, grab your block. Good focused gaze. Look down. That's where balance is easiest, is when you're looking down at the mat right underneath you, the floor right underneath you. Pouring energy out that right leg, out the heel. Bring the arm up. Open the heart. Another breath. Step it back. Vera 1. Float it up. And again, step off, coming into your Vera 3, and hands come down into your standing split. And then jiva squat it down. And float it up. I think we only did a couple, so we'll just do, I can feel my legs from the jiva squats we did yesterday. My muscles are chirping. And straighten that leg out. Step it back. Float it out, Vera 1. And then hands down, other side of the foot. Come on down. So with this contemplation, this knowledge that our life is not fixed, we have no idea how much time left we have on this earth. Breathing here in your down dog. Knees under hips, hands under shoulders. Can we live each day as if it was our last? Is that possible? Can we listen to one another, relate to one another as if there is no tomorrow? And I think the thing, and I said this to you all maybe yesterday, let's not slip slide, especially in our culture of this pressure to do more. Let's not be like frenetic, trying to jam, more into each day. That's not what these contemplations are about. We inhale, we lift into our cow, undulating the spine. And exhale and tuck. Head comes down, arching the back part open. And again, widen the knees, touch the toes and sit back. So it's not about doing more. It's not about trying to rush or overfill. If anything, it's about slowing down and paying attention, being more connected to your truth. And that's what all of yoga is about. Yoga, yuj, to yoke. Yuj in Sanskrit means to yoke, to unite. And often we talk about uniting the mind and the body. But the deeper truth of yoga is uniting the individual self with the cosmic self. Another breath here. And then come on up. Hands walk forward, curl the toes, lift the hips, walk it out. Right? When we're connected to our truth, when we're connected to our joy, it just becomes easier to flow and make decisions that are best suited to, who we are as people. Float that right leg back and up. Stretch it out. Lift the foot up. And then bring that knee in towards the nose, crunching it in. And inhale, lift. And exhale. Inhale, lift it up. And exhale, curl it in. And step it forward. Coming into your Vira 2, lengthen your stance. Long. Hips are open towards the long edge of the mat. Knees right over the ankle. Stretching fingertip to fingertip. Breathe your shoulders down the back. Straighten that leg and glide into your triangle pose. Again, this is how our contemplations of death can transform our lives. Having the clarity to know that let's not consistently put things off, floating it up. You hear those bittersweet stories of, the beautiful nightgown that was given to the woman that she carefully tucked away for a special occasion. And she passed away never wearing it, or saving stuff for another day, for a special occasion. Take your side angle. So in order to taste the sweetness of life, arm on that thigh, opening it up. Should we start saying, no, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to wear the nightgown now. I'm going to eat the good chocolate now. I'm going to drink that really good bottle of champagne now. Right? Breathe in here. And hands either side of the foot. And as a positive psychology practitioner, walk your dog out. I totally believe in savoring. I believe in planning for, the awesome vacation that's maybe a year and a half out. There's a lot of science that support, that kind of thing. Looking forward to something. We experience, the good things in life 3 times. We look forward to them, we live them, and then we remember them. Floating that left leg back and up, stretch it up, reach it up. And then come forward, curling in, firing up your strength. Inhale, bring that leg up. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot good to that. But when we just think about, oh gosh, the safari I'm going to take at some point in the future, and we don't plan for it, we just talk about it and imagine it, but don't take action to make those things happen. That's when we end up at the end of our lives with regret. So maybe that's part of your contemplation. What have I been saying, when I get to it, I will? That you can start saying, no, I'm going to make this more of a priority. Oh, we were supposed to open up into Vira 2, y'all. Sorry about that. Virabhadrasana 2. We got an extra Vira 1 in. Yay. Vira 2. Breathing here. Another breath. Straighten that leg and glide into your Trikonasana. What are you consistently putting off with this assumption that you'll have time? I'll get to it. It's important, but I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Because a really good exercise, when suggested a few days ago, the activity of writing your own obituary. Take reverse. Right hand light on the leg, front knee stays bent, and then side angle. So another really good activity to do is if you realized all of a sudden somebody did give you a clock, and they said, you got 24 hours. And you said, okay, I'm going to use this time, swing that arm down and around, here or two, to think about, I really wish I had taken that safari. I really wish I had, had that huge party where we all went, out to the casino or whatever. And allow those things, the things that pop up right away, say, I'm going to prioritize those things. I'm going to do this one by 2022. I'm going to do this one by 2024, right? Breathing here. And then knees under hips, hands under shoulders. And float on up, cow pose. And exhale, arch. And one of the most powerful things you can do is go through this with someone who does the same, and you hold each other accountable. Write it down. Don't just think it, while you're laying in Shavasana, as awesome as that is. Think it and then write it down, because as soon as you write it down, it becomes tangible. And then tell somebody about it. Tell somebody about it. Widen those knees, touch the toes, sit back, child's pose. And say, by July 15th, 2022, I'm going to make a plan to go to Yellowstone National Park. And I'm going to go by the end of the year, by the end of 2022. Make it super measurable. Set a date and communicate it to someone. Say, I would like you to hold me accountable. I'd like you to ask me to check in with me. Another breath. And come on up. And take a seat and bring the soles of the feet together. Because again, this is part of my class that I teach. When we write down our goals, the chances of us achieving them go way up. But what's even more dramatic is when we then communicate that intention to someone and tell them that you want them to hold you accountable. Goes through the roof. Through the roof. Oh, what Cooper's doing. Do y'all hear that noise in the background? I don't know what that is. Breathing here in your Baddha Konasana. And this is where, we start working through our bucket list in a way that's life-affirming, that's living, You're not sick. You haven't been given a time clock, but you're doing the things that are important to you, right? Breathing here in your cobbler. Having your block nearby, and then coming into your wide-legged fold, seated fold. So I always put my hands behind me and I lift up and I roll the pelvis forward. You can also reach back and grab your chunky bits, get them out of the way. That helps the sits bones ground down into the earth, rolls the pelvis bowl forward, pelvic bowl forward, and that just helps your spine be nice and tall. Like if you were, seeing me in profile, you'd see that I'm really, perpendicular to the earth. I'm really nice and tall. There's no curving in the lumbar spine. There's no slumping. There's not any of this, which happens when our hamstrings are super tight, right? So if that's where your space is, grab a blanket and get them under your chunky bits. So that helps tilt the pelvis bowl forward, pelvic bowl forward. Grab your blocks. And then just start coming down. Closing the eyes. And asking yourself again, utilizing these contemplations so that they transform our lives. So that our awareness of death means that we're living life more fully. So if you have the 2 blocks, maybe using both of them, it can be helpful to kind of hold on to them because otherwise they'll kind of crumble on you so that you get those blocks on the forehead. And again, press into the forehead. Have it be like this really nice massage. Have it feel really good, releasing those muscles in the face. And as you allow yourself to melt down, maybe you turn the way the blocks are angled. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can combine this to continue to melt into your forward fold, cooling down the body. Knees are straight up, toes are straight up, flex the feet. Nice falling out breath, maybe opening the mouth and just letting it go. Closing the eyes and thinking, what have I wanted to do that I've just been, kicking down the road, especially with COVID, right? So many of us have put our lives on hold. So what, walking those hands up, what can we start saying, nope, I'm not going to put it on hold anymore. I'm going to do that. Bringing the sole of the right foot to the inner left thigh and let's side bend to the left. And we keep that shoulder back, opening the heart, twisting yourself open so you can easily look up at the ceiling above you as you side bend. If you do this, if you kind of fall, and that means you need to sit up and open the heart and come over. Another breath. And float up and switch sides. And, as you list things out of things you've wanted to do, I invite you to kind of write them down. And especially if you've been, pretty inert, start with the small ones. Hey, I really wanted to call up Jane for us to have dinner. Now do that. Do the things that are easy, because that'll start building some momentum in you, getting you out of your rut. Another breath. And float up. Come on to the back body. Hugging those knees into the chest. If you have a strap, grab your strap. We're just going to do a quick Supta Padangusthasana. Now, if you have a tweaky low back, the sole of the left foot lands on the earth as you float the right leg up. The leg is straight, shoulders are down the back, chin is in towards the chest. Breathing here. If you don't have any low back issues, you can extend that leg long. Drawing the leg in. If you have a strap, put the strap around the ball of the foot. Just draw the leg in. Otherwise, you can hold on to the thigh. You can hold on to the back of the calf. If your leg's pretty open, you can take your peace fingers around the big toe. And breathe here. And remember, we do that anterior pelvic tilt, which means that you grow the tailbone down so that the belt line lifts up, and that shifts the opening of the pose. It's easier to do this when you have a strap. Holding onto the toe is harder to, because the leg will kind of float away from you, but then when you draw it in, you're right in the belly of the hamstrings rather than at the attachment points. So again, anterior tilt means you're growing the tailbone down towards the earth, and you'll feel you get light in the back waist, right at the belt line. Another breath, and then extend that leg long. And breathe into the length of that leg, just that simple pose. Feel how much longer the right leg is than the left. I love doing this because as a yoga teacher, I walk around and feel like, oh my gosh, it feels so much longer. And I'm like, y'all, it is longer. I can see it. I can see it. It's crazy. Belly rises and falls. Breathing here in your Shavasana. And then straighten out the body. And bring that left leg overhead. Now remember, if you have a tweaky low back, sole of the right foot on the floor. Leg is straight. Check in with the neck. I always get weird here on the neck. I always jut my chin up. So bring the chin down towards the chest. Shoulders relax down. Back heart is flat. Strap around the ball of the foot if you've got a strap. Leg extends if your low back is not grumpy. And then anterior pelvic tilt. Grow the tailbone down, lightening up through the back waist. Breathing here. Draw again. And a few breaths. Thinking about those things you'd love to do and you just haven't made space for them. My leg is shaking like crazy. And then as you're ready, extend that left leg long. And release down into your Shavasana. As always, if there's one last pose that would feel really sweet, go ahead and do that now. And then settle into your Shavasana. Whatever that looks like, grabbing a blanket, putting a bolster under the knees, laying on the couch, whatever suits you. So this feels really snuggly and relaxed, and you can just totally melt the body down. Maybe you're on your back body, and maybe you're not. Listen to the body. just let the mind soften and drift down. So we've been reading words from Rumi, and the phrase of his that I continually start with, because I love it so much, is that our death is our wedding with eternity. Our wedding with eternity. And Rumi goes on to say, Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun sets and the moon sets, but they're not gone. Death is a coming together. The tomb looks like a prison, but it's really release into union. It's release into union. Rumi goes on to say, every mortal will taste death, but only some will taste life. And that's how these contemplations can transform our lives. Where we're opening up to the ways that we want to taste life, the way that we want to soak in life, embrace life, roll around ecstatically in our lives. Another voice to hear from, Sri Chinmay, says, death is not the end. Death can never be the end. Death is the road, life is the traveler, and the soul is the guide. So let our souls guide us, right? Sat Chit Ananda, our truth, helping us discover our bliss, connecting with our truest self, our deepest self. Breathing here. And then as you're ready, bringing movement into the body, whatever that looks like. Allow the body to move intuitively. My invitation to you always is to practice yoga from the inside out. Meaning that it doesn't matter what the pose looks like. What matters most is how the pose feels, how the pose serves you, how it suits you, how it chips away at those energetic blocks that are holding you back. And in your own time, with no sense of hurry, rolling over onto the right side, cradle the heart. And then carefully press yourself up into an easy seat and rub the head.